Welcome to Gotta Front. This is Will Sanchez. Thank you for tuning in. My special guest today is Dr. Peter Soboroff. He is the founder of a unique marathon called the New York Cat Hospital Father's Day Marathon. It's a trend because apparently he has won every one of these marathons. I'm honored to have Dr. Peter Soboroff as my guest.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. I should have mentioned that I heard about you through a mutual friend, Dave Kleckner of the Flyers.
Yes.
Apparently, his cats are patients of yours.
They are indeed. And Dave is one of the few people who will humor me by listening to my running stories, my running anecdotes, because not everyone cares. But Dave patiently listens and...
Well, he has a cutie that he likes to showcase on his Facebook page.
Of course.
So they look healthy, so we can speak about good care, obviously, that you provide for them.
I hope they're doing well.
But you sent me this GoFundMe link. I guess you raised some funds last year when you did the marathon. We'll talk more about it. And that was a dirty trick because there was this picture of this cat that you just can't keep your eyes off it because it was very striking. And it had this little tongue sticking out. And I fell immediately in love with this cat. Rizzo, I believe his name. Tell us about Rizzo.
Rizzo lived with us at the cat hospital for a number of years. He was a real character, a real charmer, great with the clients. Everyone loved Rizzo. He, of course, had quite a face, a unique face, a toothless face. His tongue would hang out, but so full of personality and so full of life. He was a winner.
Was he an abandoned cat or something?
He was one of many rescues that have come to ultimately live at the cat hospital. He was surrendered by his owners for reasons unknown. One of the rescue organizations I work with took him from the shelter, brought him to us, and we loved him so much we kept him.
Okay, took him for medical care, obviously.
For medical care, we'll get into it, but one of the organizations I worked with pulls older, needier cats from the city shelters to find them homes.
Oh, okay. So he was the house cat for your practice.
He was one of our house cats.
The New York Cat Hospital, which is in the Upper West Side?
Correct. New York Cat Hospital is on the Upper West Side, West 66th Street.
And how long have you been there?
Been there now 12 years.
It's a long time. So, and you're the owner and the chief cat administrator.
I am.
And you're strictly on cats.
It is just cats.
Yeah, there's a few places like that in New York that only do cats. I would imagine there must be a few places that do dogs, but I don't know. I'm a cat person myself.
I don't know of any dog-only facilities, but yes, there are other cat-only facilities.
Yes,
I think there are actually 3 others in Manhattan alone.
Yes.
No, it's not a unique idea, but it's a pleasant way to practice.
I must admit, I like cats, but it was an acquired taste. I did not like animals when I was growing up, which I think I got that from my parents, who did not enjoy animals, pets, even though they were raised with dogs back in Puerto Rico. When they moved to New York, they said enough with animals. It took many years for me to get over it.
And now you are the proud owner of a sweet cat.
I'm an owner of Tommy. Well, actually, he owns us.
Yeah.
We got him from By the Weed. He's a rescue. And like Izzo, he loves people. So we had some contract work done, and he became a member of the crew. They would come in, and he would just go right with them, check things out. When they had lunch, he would be right there with them.
Sounds like a good boy.
Yeah, all right. Let's start at the beginning, Doctor. Well, I'll call you Peter.
Sure, please do.
Let's start at the beginning, Peter. Tell us where you were born and something about your growing up years.
I am from the Chicago area. I was born and raised in the suburbs of Chicago. Still have family there. Did all of my schooling in Illinois, at the University of Illinois. I initially worked actually as a wildlife biologist for a number of years before deciding to go to vet school. Went to vet school with the notion that I would continue with wildlife, but interestingly, I came to New York my senior year of school to do some, you're allowed to do an external internship somewhere. I did so here in New York at the Animal Medical Center, and loved New York much more than I would have expected. The food,
Illinois is famous for something, for pizza, I think.
I came here and I started eating, and I haven't stopped. I was just blown away by the
The
by
cuisine.
the variety of food available to me,
Okay,
and I changed course.
so when you were in college, what was your major?
My major at the University of Illinois was ecology, ethology, and evolution, which is tangential
The
to
three
wildlife.
E's.
3 E's, which is tangential to wildlife studies. So my work and my master's all involved wildlife, and
Wildlife.
my initial career was as a wildlife
Okay,
biologist.
so Illinois is not famous for its wildlife. Where did this love for animals come from?
I've always had an affinity for animals. I was raised with pets, one dog and a series of cats, and my initial plan was to be a biologist, which indeed I was for a few years.
Okay.
I thought I would then use a veterinary degree in a wildlife capacity. I never thought I would live in a big city. Who would live in a city? I changed my tune. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here you are in the city. You just did your internship. So did you open up a practice right away?
After I graduated, I did then a 1-year postgraduate internship at the Animal Medical Center, which is a well-known, nationally if not internationally known, veterinary facility on the east side. They offer postgraduate internships, so I did a 1-year postgraduate internship, and then took a job on the west side, working with dogs and cats. I did so for 10 years until such time that I opened my own facility, a cat-only facility, New York Cat Hospital, 12 years ago.
12 years ago. And why did you decide to concentrate on defining species?
It's not certainly not an anti-dog statement. I love dogs. My family loves dogs, but I do have an affinity and perhaps a preference for cats. Cat practice is quieter. It's peaceful. It's a nice way to go. Whereas a mixed facility, there are barking dogs and horrible smells. In a cat practice, things are quiet, nice,
Okay.
relatively
Okay.
tranquil,
All right.
hopefully,
All right.
on a good day.
So what kind of problems do you see with cats typically in a work day?
Well, the problems that I would see would be different than those that a vet in the suburbs or a rural area would see, because 98% of my patients are indoor apartment cats. But there is a common list of cat issues that any vet will deal with. Dental disease is prevalent, urinary problems. Older cats invariably run into kidney trouble. We deal with much of the same spectrum of medical problems that a human doctor deals with. Cancer,
Cancer.
diabetes, runs the gamut.
Yeah. What's a good way to take care of one's cat? What's the best advice that you've ever gotten or given?
See your vet regularly. I think that's just common sense. The sooner you catch something, the earlier you catch something, the more you can do about it.
Okay.
So regular vet visits are worthwhile. It's not really just about vaccines. And in my opinion, the best way to keep your cat up and running for a long, long time, watch their weight. Lean cats tend to live a lot longer than fat cats. And take care of their teeth, like you are already doing. The patients I have that live the longest, those cats that hit 20 and beyond, are almost always those with healthy mouths.
Okay.
So paying attention to dental health, oral health.
You got to keep your teeth healthy, because it could lead to heart disease and other problems.
Exactly.
Same thing with cats.
Same is true.
Okay. Yeah, they teach us, how to, put your finger with a little thing to clean his teeth. Sometimes we get him that little liquid that we put in his water that supposedly helps, and we get him,
These are all
treats
helpful
that
tools.
are
all helpful tools.
all helpful. Yeah, we take them. Well, you got to know your cat. When something's off, we know. Here you are. You open up your practice. What was your physical activity like? How did you maintain vigor?
Well, I wasn't always vigorous, and I had dabbled with running in grad school. I had dabbled with running in vet school a little bit, a few 5Ks here and there, nothing, no distance much beyond that. And through my first 10 years in New York, I was not particularly healthy. So come the opening of the cat hospital, I was 40 pounds overweight. I was smoking at that point,
Okay.
uh, getting very little exercise. I was, honestly quite depressed.
And what was your
And
age at that time?
well, so if I'm 55 now, that would have made me 43 or so.
Okay.
Had a newborn son. I knew I needed to do something to turn around. And starting very slowly, I began running.
Okay.
Starting very slowly. I mean,
Okay.
a couple blocks at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
My wife has always been a runner. There's a group of runners she's befriended and run with now for probably 20 years.
Which
An
group is that?
informal group. They call
was-
themselves the Pizza Runners. But there's a group of avid runners
They call themselves the Pizza Runners?
because after their runs, they typically meet for pizza.
Okay. How do you join this group? Because viewers want to join up right away.
It's an informal collection of what are now just long-term friends. And
Long-term friend.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So word of
And
mouth kind of a group.
They would meet regularly on Tuesdays, run in the park, and then meet for pizza.
Okay. In the park, being Central Park.
Correct.
Okay. She probably encouraged you to any kind of
She
activity.
encouraged me to get out and do something. You bet.
Okay. But, we mentioned this New York Cat Hospital Father's Day Marathon. Was that the marathon you've done?
Well, yes and no. Over the years, I ran more frequently. I ran longer distances, eventually tackling double digits, eventually seeing if I could do 13, and I could. Came a day 4 or 5 years ago that I thought I would try to run home from work. At that point, my office here is on the Upper West Side. I live now in Westchester. In the car, it was about 17, 18 miles. I thought I would give it a try. By the time I got home, though, the route was not what I thought it was going to be. It was 22 miles or so by the time I got home, many, many hours later. At which point I realized, if I can do 22, I could probably do a marathon.
Okay.
So on Father's Day, the 2014, I guess, I had my wife drive me out into the country, and she dumps me on the side of the road, 25 miles from home, 26 miles from home.
Just find your way home.
Exactly. I think she's thinking done and done. She's looking at her watch. Is it too soon to start dating? But much to her chagrin, I found my way home, 26 miles. This was on a Westchester trail called the North County Trail that ultimately terminates or passes quite close to my home.
Okay.
So she dumps me on the side of the road, but sure enough, I made it home.
Like a boomerang.
Retrospectively, called it the first annual New York Cat Hospital Father's Day Marathon. This was on a Father's Day, and declared myself the winner.
Because you were the only one, so
Exactly.
nobody was going to dispute that. But actually, you did more than 26.
I think that first year was actually 29.
29.
They've all been a little more than 26, just because the routes
Okay.
never quite work
So you're
out.
really an ultra marathoner. If
You
you
could say that.
want to be a stickler.
You could say that. The following year,
2015.
2015, one of my favorite trails in Westchester is the Old Croton Aqueduct. And it's just a tremendous resource. It is a trail along what used to be the aqueduct that provided New York City with most of its water. And it's just great. It is not heavily trafficked, very few intersections. It is a dirt but smooth trail for the most part. And it occurred to me, or I saw somewhere, that the distance from its origin at the Croton Dam, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous dam and park up in Croton, to its terminus at the north end of Van Cortlandt Park was almost exactly 26 miles. So that just made sense. So Father's Day of 2015, I ran the length of the Old Croton Aqueduct Trail. But there is an organization called the Friends of the Old Croton Aqueduct. It is, again, a linear state park, but the Friends raises money for and promotes and gives tours of and are in many ways caretakers of this terrific trail. So I did a GoFundMe fundraiser for the group Friends of the Old Croton Aqueduct. I was not very media savvy, not social media savvy, but the local paper ran a little bit on me, and not working the social media very hard, we still raised a few $1,000s for the Friends of the Old Croton Aqueduct.
Excellent. The Aqueduct Marathon.
And that was a hard run. It was 87 degrees, very muggy. It had rained, so much of the trail was not just muggy, but muddy.
Muddy.
It was an ordeal.
That was a tough one. And so I guess you missed most of Father's Day in those 2 years?
Well, took a big chunk out of Father's Day.
And do you have children?
I do. I have an 11-year-old son, Jaron. So, yeah. So this year, I'll be doing it the day after Father's Day so that I can spend Father's Day with my family, as I should.
But last year you did it again, and I think this time you raised money for your favorite cat rescue organization.
Well, exactly. The past 2 years, I changed my route and have been raising money for some cat rescue organizations I work with.
Where Rizzo, for example, came from.
Exactly, where Rizzo came from. So Rizzo was brought to us from a group called Frankie's Feline Fund. They are a nonprofit, and what Frankie's Feline Fund does, Frankie's Feline Fund, run by a woman named Bunny Hoffberg, they pull older special needs cats from the shelters, diabetics, cats with kidney disease, cats with medical conditions, cats that would otherwise be largely unadoptable, and find them foster and or permanent homes. And as the older cats get the short end of the stick in the shelter system, they are harder to adopt. So she's made it her mission to adopt or to rescue these older cats, special needs cats. And I've worked with her for, 15, 20 years actually, and very much admire what she's up to there. I think these cats deserve a chance, and she's giving them one.
Absolutely. And obviously, donations is a big part of it.
Big part of it. And the other group is another man I've worked with for probably close to 20 years, Doug Halsey, who heads up Ready for Rescue. And Ready for Rescue similarly pulls adoptable dogs and cats. Ready for Rescue does dogs as well, from the city shelters and finds them foster homes and permanent homes. So, yes, so 2016, they were the recipients of the fundraising, and so as to pique interest and maybe have a gimmick of sorts, I did a midnight marathon. That was interesting. There is another trail in Westchester called the North County Trail, which lies along what was formerly a railroad route.
The old Putnam Trail.
Yep, exactly.
So there's the South County Trail is paved.
North County Trail, and then up to the Putnam County Trail, all the way to Brewster. I had done that in its entirety in small lengths, but I thought I would try to do the whole thing, because if you drop me off 26 miles up the trailhead, I'll end up near home. But I thought I would do it at midnight. It took some planning because, of course, there's no water and there are no facilities. There's nothing to do. I pre-planted water and Gatorade along my route so that I knew that I would have some pit stops along the way. I ran with a headlamp and a water belt, of course, and started at the stroke of midnight.
Your wife again dropped you off somewhere?
No, actually, she was asleep. I drove myself up there and then got a ride back to my car the following day.
It's like having the firstborn, the second, it's okay. I already know it. She already dropped you off the first time, so now she's sleeping. Go ahead.
Exactly.
She knows you're coming back.
She wished me luck and did agree to come pick me up if I made it back home. But that was fun, but scary. I didn't really think that through. So yeah, for the first 30 minutes, I was scared. I was sure I was going to get eaten by a coyote or a bear.
You kept
the
that.
first 30 minutes, I came close to stopping, but then I realized, nothing's happening. There was one drunken teenager at the start. I think I saw a possum. That was about it. But it is pitch black. This trail is largely isolated.
Yeah.
And it was strange running with just the headlamp.
So could you hear your footsteps? Could you hear your heartbeat? Could you hear animal noises?
I could. Eventually, I I calmed down and put my headphones on because I do run with headphones and music, and I was fine.
Okay.
And that was nice. The nicest part of this midnight marathon was watching the sun come up. We had nice weather. These marathons take me a while. I'm very slow. And so I was still going by the time the sun was coming up, and that was inspiring.
You started at midnight, so 6 hours later, the sun would come up, or 5 hours later, if it's the right time of the year.
6.
6.
I'm slow.
Oh, okay. Now, do you run with a camera? Did you take some nice photos?
I did take photos, but again, it was pitch black, so there wasn't much to photograph there. I do tweet my runs with my running app Runkeeper. It will tweet my location as I'm running. So if someone were to follow me on Twitter, such as my wife, she could see that I'm on the trail making progress, as opposed to dragged off into a bush somewhere getting mauled by a bear. So it is possible for her to follow me. I had the headlamp. I had a lighted armband.
You were well dressed for it. You were, you did it because you got you thought ahead in terms of putting the Gatorade in the water.
I pre-placed stuff along the way.
Which is good.
And sure enough, got home, and that was interesting. I probably won't do that again.
In New York, there's the 100K that you can do. That starts at midnight.
100K?
100K.
I did not know.
Phil McCarthy's. It's called the Great 100-Mile 100K Running Expedition. Very well supported, and I think you would love it.
The Midnight Marathon was fun and interesting, as was last year's. Last year, I thought I would attempt a loop of Manhattan, and one can Google it and see some bike routes that theoretically would have been about 29 miles or so.
It's 32. The Great Saunter. Have you heard of the Great Saunter?
No, but maybe
that's a walk around. It's 32 miles.
Well, so I think that's ultimately what I did. I haven't heard of the Great Saunter, but I tried to stay as close to the edge, as close to the water as humanly possible. And side streets and alleys.
Yep, you got to go upstairs at some point.
Yep. Interestingly, as such, I passed by and encountered, of course, all the bridges that cross into the island of Manhattan. And there are a surprising number of bridges, 20. There are 20 bridges, almost all on the east side, that enter Manhattan. 2 are pedestrian only, 2 are rail only bridges, but that still leaves 16 automobile bridges that enter Manhattan. I took photos of them all. I tweeted these photos as I ran. So that was the excitement of last year's. Though, actually, the way I did this turned into 36 miles, so 36.6 or thereabouts. I didn't expect that, and as such, I completely missed Father's Day with my family. I didn't get home till 10 p.m.
Oh, did that cause any familial problems?
Yeah, this year I will be doing the marathon.
Oh, okay. You learned your lesson.
Yeah, I learned my lesson. This year we'll be doing it the day after Father's Day.
Well, so interesting. What inspired you to run around the perimeter of Manhattan?
I always enjoy running someplace new. For me, that makes the run a lot easier. If there's new scenery, places that I'm not familiar with. So even though I had scouted out much of the route around Manhattan, it still felt new.
Yeah.
And again, we're looking for some hook, some gimmick to make it interesting.
Then you fundraised again for the 2 organizations.
Correct.
I think you came very close to 20,000.
We did.
Amazing.
We did. I think about $17,000+.
Yeah, most of these from patients of yours.
These are from clients and friends. This year, I had a little bit more of a social media presence, and we did surprisingly well. So, and these organizations need this money.
Oh, of course.
So we'll be doing this again
in 2018, Father's Day in a few weeks.
And this year it will be a tri-state marathon. I'm going to start in Fort Lee, New Jersey, cross the George Washington Bridge, head up through New York to Greenwich, Connecticut. Distance is right around 26 miles, and I thought it would be fun to do a tri-state marathon.
Okay.
Hit 3 states, raising money for the same groups and one new one, an organization called Paws Crossed, a shelter in Elmsford, New York, where I adopted a sweet little cat named Clementine.
House cat or just an office cat?
House cat.
House cat. Does the office replace Rizzo with another?
We have a ever-changing collection of misfits that live at the office. So we've got
I like
4 or
that,
5
misfits.
Yeah.
Well, listen, on that note of misfits, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure.
My pleasure.